In the forgotten outskirts of Texas, where the wind carried dust more than hope, there lived a girl who learned early that life doesn't wait for anyone. Her name was Emily Carter. She was not born into privilege, nor did she grow up surrounded by opportunities. Her world was small, an old wooden house that creaked with every storm, a father who came home exhausted every night, and a mother whose hands were always rough from endless cleaning jobs. But inside that small world, something unusual grew. A fire, not loud, not visible, but steady. While other children learned how to enjoy childhood, Emily learned how to endure it. At age 10, she was already waking up before sunrise, not because someone told her to, but because she had started running. Every morning, she would lace up worn-out shoes and run along the empty highway that stretched beyond her neighborhood. Cars rarely passed, the world felt silent. But Emily liked that silence. It gave her space to think. And in that silence, she built a dream she never told anyone. She wanted to join the U.S. Army. Not because she liked weapons, not because she wanted power, but because she believed something simple. If life is going to keep hitting you, you should learn how to hit back harder. A dream that sounded impossible. The first time Emily mentioned her dream, it wasn't planned. It happened during dinner. Her mother was tired, stirring a pot of cheap soup. Her father was fixing a broken radio at the table. Emily said it quietly. "I want to join the army when I grow up." The room didn't react immediately. Then her mother stopped stirring. "Army," she repeated slowly. Her father finally looked up. And then came the silence that felt heavier than words. "You're serious?" her mother asked. Emily nodded. Her father exhaled and shook his head slightly. "Emily, military life is not for people like us. It's not a dream, it's survival, it breaks people." Her mother added softly, almost pleading, "You're strong, but not for that world." That sentence stayed in Emily's mind longer than anything else. Not strong enough. But instead of arguing, she did something unusual. She smiled, because deep down, she had already made her decision. When people doubt you, you don't always need to convince them. Sometimes, you just need to prove them wrong later. School was not a place of comfort. At school, Emily was not popular. She wasn't the loud girl, or the fashionable one, or the one who blended easily into groups. She kept to herself. She trained during lunch breaks, doing push-ups behind the gym, running laps alone while others laughed and talked. Some students noticed, and they mocked her. Why does she act like she's in the military already? She thinks she's special. But Emily never responded, because she understood something most didn't. Words are temporary, discipline is permanent. The breaking of normal life. At 16, life became harder. Her father's work hours increased, money became tighter, bills piled up like silent pressure in every corner of the house. One night, Emily overheard her parents arguing. Not loudly, but painfully. "We can't afford her dreams," her father said. Her mother replied, "Then what do we tell her?" Emily stood behind the wall, listening. That night she couldn't sleep. Not because she was scared, but because she realized something important. If she wanted the army, she couldn't just want it. She had to become it. The decision that changed everything. At 17, she began training seriously. Not casually, not occasionally. Serious military-level discipline. She woke up at 4:30 a.m. every day. Ran long distances even in rain. Practiced push-ups until her arms shook. Carried heavy backpacks filled with bricks to simulate army gear. Sometimes she fell, sometimes she failed. But she never skipped. Neighbors saw her running in storms and thought she was strange. But Emily wasn't trying to be understood. She was trying to be ready. The day she left home, the day she turned 18 came quietly. No big celebration. No parties. Just a small breakfast with her family. Her mother looked emotional but tried to hide it. Her father placed a hand on her shoulder. "You still have time to change your mind," he said. Emily shook her head. "No, I'm ready." Her father nodded slowly, like he already knew this moment would come. Her mother hugged her tightly and whispered, "Come back safe, even if you don't come back the same." That sentence stayed with Emily forever, because she didn't fully understand it yet. But she would. The gates of the army. The training academy was massive. Cold metal gates, strict guards, uniformed silence. As Emily stepped forward with her luggage, she felt something shift inside her. This was not school. This was not life as she knew it. This was a place where identity gets rewritten. The moment she stepped inside, the shouting began. "Line UP quickly. You think this is a vacation? Move." The air itself felt different, heavier, sharper, more demanding. Emily stood in line with other recruits. Some looked confident. Some looked nervous. Some looked like they already regretted coming. But Emily stood still. Not because she wasn't afraid, but because she refused to show it. First night, reality hits hard. The first night was brutal. No comfort, no silence, no privacy. Just strict rules and constant pressure. Beds were basic metal frames. Lights were too bright. Commands came even during rest. At 2:00 a.m., they were suddenly woken up. "Get up, form up outside." People stumbled out half asleep. Cold air hit like punishment. Emily's body was already aching from the first training session. And this was just the beginning. A drill instructor walked slowly in front of them. "You are not here to be comfortable," he said. "You are here to see if you deserve to survive." Those words didn't sound like motivation. They sounded like warning. The first physical test. The next morning, they began conditioning. Long runs, heavy drills, immediate pressure. Emily struggled, but she didn't stop. Her lungs burned, her legs screamed, her mind tried to slow her down. But she remembered her father's words. "The army will break you." And she thought, "Maybe, but I will decide what remains after I break." The mockery begins. It didn't take long for others to notice her. A female recruit whispered, "She looks too soft for this place." A male recruit laughed, "She won't survive week 1." Emily heard everything. But instead of reacting, she focused on breathing. Inhale, exhale, move. Because she realized something important early. The army doesn't care what people think. It cares what you can endure. The first collapse. On the third day, during a long endurance drill, Emily's body finally hit its limit. Her vision blurred. Her knees weakened. Her hands trembled. She fell. Mud covered her uniform. For a second, everything went silent in her mind. This was it. The moment everyone expected. She would quit. She would be another failure. She would prove them right. But then something unexpected happened. She didn't stand up immediately. She stayed on the ground. Not defeated. Thinking. And in that moment, she made a decision. Slowly, painfully, she pushed herself back up. Not fast. Not strong. But steady. And she whispered, "I'm not done." End of part 1, extended. That moment didn't make her strong. It made her dangerous. Because Emily Carter was no longer just a girl trying to survive training. She had started becoming someone who refused to accept limits. And in the army, That kind of mindset changes everything. The morning after her first real breakdown didn't feel like a new day. It felt like a continuation of punishment. Emily Carter stood in formation with the others, her body still remembering yesterday's fall. Her uniform was stiff with dried mud, her muscles still sore, and her mind unusually quiet, not calm, but alert in a different way. Because something had changed. Not her pain, her awareness of it. Across the yard, drill instructors moved like storms with boots. Their voices cut through air like commands carved into metal. Straighten up. EYS forward. You are not here to think. You are here to execute. Emily didn't blink. She had already learned something important in just a few days. In this place, hesitation was failure. The system begins to test her. Today was different. Not routine training. Not physical drills. Today was designed to expose weakness. They called it stress conditioning, but everyone knew the truth. It was survival testing. The recruits were split into squads and pushed into a sequence of escalating tasks. Timed obstacle courses, heavy gear carries, sudden combat simulations, mental pressure drills with no sleep recovery. Emily's squad lined up. The instructor walked slowly in front of them, scanning faces. Then his eyes stopped on her. "You again," he said coldly. Emily didn't respond. He smiled slightly, like he had already decided something. Carter front position. A few recruits glanced at her. Not support. Not sympathy. Curiosity. Because being placed at the front was not an honor here. It was exposure. Obstacle course, where weakness gets exposed. The course was brutal. Walls too high to climb easily. Ropes that burned palms. Mud pits designed to slow every step. And time limits that felt impossible. The whistle blew. Chaos began instantly. Emily ran. Not fast at first. Controlled. Measured. She climbed the first wall, slipped slightly, caught herself and pushed forward. Behind her, someone shouted, "Move faster." She ignored it. Second obstacle rope climb. Her hands burned instantly. Halfway up, her arms started shaking. Her body screamed, "Stop, drop, rest." But her mind answered, "Not here." She reached the top and dropped down hard, rolling to absorb impact. Pain exploded through her shoulder. She didn't stop. The first sabotage moment. At the third obstacle, something happened. A male recruit accidentally, or maybe not, blocked her path. "Sorry," he said, not sounding sorry at all. She lost a few seconds. Seconds that mattered. When she tried to pass, he sped up again. Intentional. Testing her patience. Trying to break her rhythm. Emily understood immediately. This wasn't just physical training anymore. It was psychological warfare. So she made a choice. She stopped reacting to people and started reacting only to mission. She moved around him without looking back. No anger. No emotion. Just execution. That confused him more than any argument would have. Heat, exhaustion, and the first breaking point of the day. By mid-course, the sun turned brutal. The air felt thick. Sweat blurred vision. Breathing became heavier with every step. One recruit collapsed behind her. No warning. Just dropped. In real life, that would have meant removal. But here, it was also a reminder. You are replaceable. Emily kept moving. Her legs felt like they belonged to someone else now. Her mind started separating from her body. One part of her was running. The other was observing. And that observer whispered, You are close to your limit. But Emily answered silently. Then I will find another one. The instructor's attention grows. At the end of the course, recruits gathered in exhausted formation. Some were bent over, breathing heavily. Some were shaking. Emily stood upright, but barely. The instructor walked slowly. He stopped again in front of her. You don't quit easily, he said. Emily stayed silent. He circled her once, like analyzing a problem. Then he said something that changed the atmosphere. Let's see how you handle pressure without physical strength. Sleep deprivation begins. That night they were not allowed to sleep. No explanation. No time limit. Just standing, waiting, listening to commands that came randomly. DOWN. UP. Move. Freeze. Hours passed. Then more hours. The human body starts breaking differently when sleep disappears. Thoughts become unstable. Time loses meaning. Reality feels distant. A recruit near Emily started shaking uncontrollably. Another began crying silently. Someone whispered, I can't do this, and was immediately removed. No warning. Just gone. Emily felt fear again. But this time it didn't freeze her. It sharpened her. The breaking of mental stability. After nearly 24 hours awake, Emily's mind started slipping. Not dramatically. Slowly. Like reality fatting at the edges. She forgot small things. What command came last, how long she had been standing, whether her legs were shaking or not. This was the real test. Not strength. Not endurance. But identity under collapse. A voice inside her whispered, You are not built for this. And for the first time, she didn't immediately reject the thought. Instead, she asked herself, What if I'm not? That moment was dangerous, because doubt in this place spreads faster than fatigue. The lowest point. During a sudden command shift, Emily moved a fraction too slow. Not enough to be dramatic, but enough to be noticed. Carter. Her name hit like a strike. She stepped forward. The instructor looked at her for a long moment, then said, You're slipping. Silence. Around her, recruits waited. This was how people got removed. One mistake. One moment of weakness. Emily's mind raced, but her body stayed still. And then she said something she didn't plan. I'm adjusting. The instructor narrowed his eyes. That's not what I asked. Emily didn't explain further, because she understood something critical. In this system, explanation is weakness. Execution is survival. The second collapse, but different this time. Later that night, during physical cooldown drills, her body finally hit a deeper wall. Not dramatic collapse, just stillness. Her arms stopped responding for a second. Her knees locked. She froze. For half a heartbeat, everything went quiet inside her. This is it, her body said. But this time, something else happened. Instead of falling, she adjusted her stance. Shifted weight. Regained control. Not perfectly, but enough. And she kept standing. That moment went unnoticed by most, but not by everyone. The instructor saw it. And for the first time, his expression changed slightly. Not approval. Not rejection. Observation. The change didn't come with warning. It came with silence. One moment, Emily Carter was still inside the controlled world of training, drills, commands, exhaustion, repetition. The next morning, everything felt off. No shouting at sunrise. No immediate formations. Just a strange stillness across the base. That silence was worse than noise. Because in military life, silence rarely means peace. It usually means something is coming. The call that changes everything. At 04:10 a.m. an alarm rang, not the usual training siren but sharper, more urgent. Within minutes, recruits were ordered into formation. Sleep-deprived faces, tight uniforms, controlled chaos. Emily stood in line again, but something felt different. The instructors weren't yelling like usual. They were focused. Serious. A senior officer stepped forward. His voice was calm, but carried weight. Listen carefully. This is no longer training exercise. A pause. That sentence changed the air instantly. This is a field simulation mission under live tactical conditions. Whispers spread instantly. Live conditions. That wasn't normal training. That meant unpredictability. Pressure without safety net. The officer continued. You will be deployed into a controlled conflict zone environment. Objectives will be completed under time pressure, communication breakdown, and simulated enemy activity. Emily felt her heartbeat slow. Not because she was calm, because her mind had shifted into survival mode. This wasn't about passing anymore. It was about functioning under uncertainty. Squad assignment, no comfort, no choice. Emily was assigned to Alpha Squad. Mixed recruits, no established leadership, no comfort zone. The instructor pointed. Carter, your point support. That meant she would move ahead of the group. First into danger. First to react. First to fail if anything went wrong. A recruit beside her whispered. Great front again. Emily didn't respond. She had learned something by now. People talk when they are nervous. You don't fix nervous people, you move anyway. The simulation zone begins. They were transported by armored vehicle. No windows clear enough to see outside properly. Only vibrations, engine noise, heavy silence inside. One recruit tried to joke. So, what's the worst that could happen? No one laughed. Even Emily didn't. Because in environments like this, humor usually means fear. After what felt like an hour, the vehicle stopped. Doors opened. Cold air hit them instantly. And they stepped into a completely different world. The environment feels real enough. The terrain was unfamiliar, dusty, uneven, partially destroyed structures designed to mimic a conflict zone. Smoke markers in the distance. Radio static occasionally breaking silence. Everything looked real enough to confuse the mind. One instructor's voice came through comms. Objective 1, secure checkpoint Point Delta. Time limit 90 minutes. Then silence. No further instructions. No guidance. Only mission. Emily adjusted her gear, checked her surroundings, and moved forward. First contact, chaos begins early. 10 minutes in, the squad encountered their first simulated threat scenario. Not real enemies, but timed ambush simulation triggers. Sudden noise. Flash detonations. Confusion designed to break formation discipline. The squad scattered instinctively. Regroup, someone shouted. But panic spreads faster than orders. Emily stayed low. Eyes scanning. Breathing controlled. She didn't react to noise. She reacted to movement patterns. That's what training had started to build in her. Not fear response, but analysis under pressure. The first leadership vacuum. The squad leader hesitated. Just for a second. But that second was enough. No command issued. No direction given. The group slowed. Emily noticed instantly. In real conditions, hesitation becomes collapse. So she made a decision. Not emotional. Not dramatic. Functional. Move left flank now. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through confusion. Two recruits followed instinctively. Then another. Momentum started shifting. The squad didn't stop, but stabilized. She wasn't officially in command. But in chaos, authority is earned in seconds, not assigned on paper. The pressure tightens. As they moved closer to the objective zone, conditions intensified. Smoke density increased. Communication interference started. Time pressure felt heavier. One recruit fell behind. Another started panicking again. "We're lost," someone said. "We're going in circles." Emily stopped briefly. Not to panic. To assess. She looked at landmarks. Orientation points. Wind direction. Then recalculated mentally. "We're off route by 40 meters, she said. "Correct heading northeast." No one questioned her. Because in uncertainty, confidence becomes leadership. The moment everything almost breaks. At checkpoint midpoint, the squad encountered a simulated high-pressure trigger. Sudden loud explosion effect. Visual disorientation. Radio cut. This was designed to break coordination completely. And it worked on most recruits. People froze. One dropped to knee. Another shouted unintentionally. Panic waves started forming again. Emily felt it too. That split-second fear response. But something inside her refused to follow it. Instead, she anchored herself. Feet grounded. Breathing steady. Then she did something simple. She started counting steps out loud. Left, right, move. Not loud enough for everyone, but enough for nearby recruits to sync. It worked. Human minds follow rhythm under chaos. And she had unknowingly created one. The hidden test they did announce. Unknown to recruits, instructors were observing more than completion. They were watching. Reaction under chaos. Decision timing. Emotional control. Leadership emergence. Emily didn't know this, but she was passing something far more important than the mission. She was being evaluated as a potential field leader, and she didn't even realize it yet. Final push to objective. The last stretch was physically draining. Fatigue had fully set in. Water was low. Muscles were trembling. But objective was visible now. Checkpoint Delta structure ahead. Squad had lost coordination, but not direction. Emily led from the middle now, not front. Because leadership isn't always visibility. Sometimes it's stability. Final push, she said. No hesitation. No doubt. And the squad moved. Objective completion, but not celebration. They reached checkpoint Delta within time limit. But instead of relief, there was silence. No cheering. No celebration. Only breathing. Heavy, exhausted breathing. The instructor's voice came through. Mission complete. Pause. Then. Extraction in progress. That was it. No praise. No emotion. Just result. Emily sat down briefly, removing weight from her shoulders. Her hands were shaking slightly, not from fear anymore. From exhaustion. But something inside her had changed again. She didn't feel like a recruit anymore. Not fully. She felt usable under pressure. And that realization was dangerous. The instructor's final look. As they regrouped for extraction, the instructor walked past Emily. He didn't speak immediately. Just observed her for a moment longer than usual. Then quietly said, "You don't freeze under pressure." Emily didn't respond. He continued, That's rare. And then he walked away. No explanation. No conclusion. Just recognition without approval. Sometimes in the army, that means more than praise. The morning after the mission didn't feel like recovery. It felt like Judgment Day, waiting quietly in the air. Emily Carter stood in formation again, but something inside her had changed so much that even the silence around her felt different. The recruits still looked exhausted, still recovering from the simulated mission, but Emily wasn't thinking about recovery anymore. She was thinking about what came next. Because in the military, nothing is ever truly finished. It only escalates. The unspoken shift. The instructors weren't shouting as much now. That was the first warning sign. When drill instructors reduce noise, it usually means one thing. They're observing more than correcting. A senior officer walked forward again. His expression was controlled, unreadable. "You have completed initial field simulation," he said. A pause. "But now you will face your final evaluation phase." A low murmur spread through the recruits. Final evaluation. That sounded official. He continued. "This phase determines your future placement. Some of you will advance, some will not continue." That sentence landed heavier than any physical drill. Because now, failure wasn't temporary. It was permanent. Emily feels the weight without fear. For the first time, Emily didn't feel panic. She felt clarity. Not confidence. Not comfort. Just awareness. Around her, recruits shifted nervously. Some swallowed hard, others avoided eye contact. But Emily stood still. Because she had learned something through everything so far. Fear is loud when purpose is unclear. But when purpose becomes sharp, fear quiets down. The final evaluation. No rules feel familiar. They were transported again. This time, no explanation at all. No mission briefing. No time limits announced. Just a destination. When they arrived, the environment was different from anything before. It wasn't just a training ground anymore. It was designed like a fragmented operational zone. Broken structures. Multiple elevation points. Scattered supply crates. Unpredictable movement paths. But something felt more intense than before. This wasn't simulation energy. It felt like observation under real pressure conditions. One instructor's voice came through. "This is an adaptive scenario. Objective will change based on your performance." That meant no fixed goal. No predictable outcome. Only adaptation. The first phase, isolation test. The squad was split. Not randomly, but deliberately. Emily found herself separated from her usual group. Left alone with two other recruits. No strong leader present. No familiar coordination. A recruit whispered, "Why did they split us?" Another answered, "To see who falls apart." Emily didn't respond, but she understood immediately. This phase was not about teamwork. It was about individual stability inside uncertainty. The pressure of being watched. Unknown to them, surveillance teams monitored every move. Every hesitation. Every reaction. Every decision. Emily didn't know this for sure, but she could feel it. That invisible weight. The feeling of being evaluated not just for action, but for instinct. She adjusted her posture slightly, checked surroundings, and started moving. Because standing still in unknown environments always creates doubt. And doubt spreads faster than movement. First, adaptive change. Rules shift midway. After 20 minutes, the environment changed unexpectedly. A loud signal triggered overhead. Then static through communication devices. And suddenly, Objective markers disappeared. What was once a guided scenario became open navigation. A recruit panicked. "We don't have coordinates anymore." Another responded, "This doesn't make sense." Emily stopped them both with a simple gesture. "Focus." She scanned the area, analyzed structure layout, noted movement paths, then said, "We're not lost. We're being tested for decision-making without instruction." That silence that followed wasn't confusion. It was realization. The moment leadership becomes natural. Without discussion, the group started following her lead. Not because she demanded it, but because she acted first. They moved through broken corridors, avoided exposed zones, used terrain intelligently. Emily didn't feel like she was leading. She felt like she was responding. And that difference mattered. Leadership in training is taught. Leadership under pressure is revealed. The breaking point that never became a breakdown. Halfway through the phase, exhaustion hit again. Not physical collapse this time, but mental fatigue. Constant adaptation drains decision speed. A recruit slowed down. Then another. Emily felt it too. That mental fog trying to creep in. But instead of resisting it directly, she simplified everything. One decision at a time. One step at a time. One objective at a time. That simplification kept her stable when others started hesitating. The hidden challenge appears. Then it happened. A simulated loss scenario triggered. Sound effects. Visual distortion. Sudden simulated threat cues. The purpose was simple. Test emotional reaction under false danger escalation. One recruit froze. Another started backing away. Panic almost spread again. Emily stepped forward. Not aggressively. Not emotionally. But firmly. "Stay grounded," she said. "None of this is real panic. It's designed pressure." Her voice stabilized the others again. Because clarity becomes contagious when chaos is rising. The instructor's observation intensifies. Behind the scenes, instructors monitored her behavior closely. Not just survival, but structure formation. They were no longer asking, "Can she survive training?" They were asking, "Can she stabilize others under unknown pressure?" That's a completely different evaluation. And Emily didn't know she was already answering it. The final phase, solo extraction. Then came the final instruction. Solo extraction phase. One member per group must navigate independently to extraction point. Silence fell instantly. That meant separation again. But this time worse. No squad support. No backup. Just individual navigation. Emily was selected without question. She didn't argue. She simply nodded. Because by now she understood. Arguing wastes energy. Movement preserves survival. The long walk alone. The environment felt larger now. Quieter. More uncertain. Every step echoed slightly. Emily checked corners. Moved carefully. Not because she was afraid, but because awareness had become automatic. Time felt different. Minutes stretched. Distance felt unclear. But she kept going. Not fast. Not slow. Just consistent. Because consistency under uncertainty is a form of strength most people underestimate. Final obstacle, mental collapse simulation. Near the extraction point, the final test activated. Not physical. Mental. Sudden sensory disruption. Lights flickered. Audio distortion increased. Instructions became intentionally unclear. This was designed to break orientation completely. Emily stopped walking for a moment. Her mind tried to process confusion. But instead of resisting it, she did something unexpected. She closed her eyes, just for a second, and reset her focus. Then she said quietly, "I don't need clarity, I need direction." She opened her eyes and moved again. Extraction point reached. When she reached the extraction zone, there was no celebration, no cheering, no applause, only silence. A transport team signaled completion, and she stepped into the vehicle without hesitation. Inside, she finally allowed herself to sit. Her body felt heavy, not broken, just fully used. The final moment with the instructor. Before transport doors closed, the instructor appeared outside. He looked at her for a long moment, not evaluating anymore, just observing. Then he said something unexpected. "You don't just endure pressure. Pause. You organize it." Emily didn't respond, because she didn't fully understand what that meant yet. But she would.